Are you making them happy? You putting in boobies?
I don't think that.
No
Well,
boobies.
there's not really boobies in this one.
Yeah, I was going to say this was
I
not
know.
really.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it
this was
doesn't
not
rate
really-
high. It doesn't rate high on the booby scale. So I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't. You can't really have boobies. Well, you could have boobies in an asylum, but that would be.
I mean, yeah, we don't have it. It's not vampire lovers here, or lust for a vampire. So
Right.
those looking for cleavage, we have other videos.
In the 1970s, mainstream movies pushed the boundaries of sex and gore farther than before, and it became difficult for Hammer to compete for the audience the studio depended on. The head of Hammer Studios, James Carreras, asked his son, Michael, to come back as managing director in 1970. He agreed, even though 2 films he produced, Moon 02 and Crescendo, were so disappointing that Warner Brothers severed their association with Hammer. Michael soon found out that his father, James, was secretly trying to sell Hammer. Michael offered to buy it, and Daddy agreed. Bernard Delfont, a friend of James, was the head of EMI and an important source of funding and distribution for Hammer movies. When James left, though, he pulled support.
Side note: EMI also pulled funding from Monty Python before the filming of The Life of Brian.
I told him. I said to him, Bernie, I said, they'll never make that money back.
Fortunately, George Harrison stepped in to finance the project through Handmade Films.
The horrors of Frankenstein had been a commercial and critical disappointment. It was in this chaos that another Frankenstein picture was greenlit. Peter Cushing was brought back, but he demanded that Terence Fisher was the director. Fisher was in retirement due to failing health. Producer Roy Skeggs met up with him in a pub and convinced him to come back for one more film. Though the film was completed in 1972, Hammer's shifting business foundations delayed its release until 1974. Not only that, it was released 5 months after the opening of the genre-defining horror titan, The Exorcist. It could not compete commercially, and the reviews were mixed. Today, though, Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell is considered a fitting swan song for Terence Fisher and Hammer's Frankenstein franchise.
You have been found guilty of one of the vilest of crimes.
I am a doctor, you know.
Dr. Simon Helder, a young surgeon, is obsessed with Frankenstein's banned theories and is arrested for grave robbing and sorcery for his attempts to replicate the Baron's experiments. He is sentenced to an asylum and soon discovers that its surgeon there is none other than Frankenstein himself. Now operating under the alias Dr. Victor, Frankenstein is physically weakened and partially crippled from past misadventures, but has blackmailed the asylum's corrupt director into allowing him free rein as its surgeon. He recruits the younger doctor and reveals a hidden laboratory to Simon, where he continues his quest to conquer death. The Baron is harvesting organs from inmates, sometimes through murder, to assemble a new creature he believes will surpass all previous attempts. The body he is using is from a violent, ape-like inmate once known for his brute strength and murderous impulses. While assisting the Baron, Helder forms a bond with Sarah, a beautiful inmate whose childhood trauma had turned her mute. She shows compassion toward the creature as she assists in the laboratory. The Baron replaces the creature's damaged brain with the brain of a gentle, scholarly inmate, wanting to create a being with superior intellect and massive strength. Helder is shocked when he discovers that the scholar was driven to suicide through Frankenstein's machinations. The new brain deteriorates, and the creature is still powerfully strong, but is growing mentally and emotionally volatile. The inmates become restless, sensing that something sinister is occurring in the asylum. Driven by confusion and anguish, the creature escapes and kills an abusive guard as the asylum descends into chaos. It digs up the grave where the body of the scholar is buried and becomes enraged. The creature kills the corrupt asylum director and destroys Frankenstein's laboratory. Guards shoot the creature, and inmates swarm the body and viciously claw at it until Frankenstein orders them back to their cells. Helder and Sarah emerge from the ruins of the laboratory, shaken and disillusioned, as Frankenstein begins to speak of new experiments and new ways to defy death. Sarah looks at Frankenstein with a mixture of fear and pity, understanding that he is trapped in his own madness.
Tonight we're going to be looking at the swan song for the Hammer Frankenstein franchise, which I think, because of the, a lot of the stuff that was going on in the background, is really underappreciated for what it actually accomplished. Not to mention that you had a very solid performance from Peter Cushing. You also had, to me, an amazing script from John Elder / Anthony Hines. There was also some of the musical accents in the film that really helped the story. Terrence Fisher, in his last directorial effort, he came back. He was actually in retirement, but Peter Cushing wanted him. And I thought he really went out on a high note with this.
And if they released it when they first made it, it probably would have done better. But post-Exorcist, they were screwed.
It was completed in 72. Could have been released in 72, maybe 73.
But they were going through so much of a mess. EMI canceled. They switched owners.
Right.
From James to Sonny Boy, and they were planning to get a partner to get this out. So I don't know if that's the exact reason why they waited to 74, but I suspect that was because too much confusion.
Another thing that I found strange, if you look at the release dates, Exorcist came out the day after Christmas in 73. But then if you look at Frankenstein and the Monster of Hell was released April 30th in 74. Which to me is unusual. April is not a strong time for releases. You don't release strong movies at that point.
And I'm with you. I don't know why, if they released it October of 73, what it would have done.
Well, okay, and it's good to point out that its initial release, it had less than stellar box office appeal. Now, here we are 50 some odd years later. The truth of the matter is, this is as good a movie as probably the franchise had, with the possible exception of the first one. But they ended this in a good place, I thought.
Well, that's the consensus now. At the time, it was lukewarm, post-Exorcist thing. But now, all these years later, most people will put it up there with the rest of them. The only reason they brought Terrence Phillip back, it wasn't because he was also in retirement. He was also considered uninsurable because of his failing health. Cushing said he was not going to do a Frankenstein film without Fisher. So they had to beg him back. Royce Geggs had to beg him back. So just had to throw that in there. But anyway, go ahead. What's your first?
The first clip is actually just the opening, and I cut all of these down, for copyright purposes.
But you did show the man.
Yeah, I did show the man, so you can sit there and say, hey, look, there's the man. And a lot of these, I also want to talk about a lot of interesting, subtle undercurrents going on. But we can talk about it as we go. And this is, like I said, the opening sequence.
lovely.
Yeah, and they're
Great. That's lovely.
yes.
And to start with Patrick Troughton, the
I-
second Doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor.
Yeah, I mean, and he was that's a hobby for him. He robs graves.
Well, we all had to have.
I mean,
something to do.
it was kind of popular in Wisconsin at one point, so. But yeah, there's a second Doctor, and that's an interesting connection too.
He was in several Hammer films.
Yeah.
Did a lot of Shakespeare also.
I like this if you show it. That here, yes, that's what I like. It's almost like his Bible or a comic book. The kids like worshiping him basically.
Yeah.
That's part of the beginning of the subtle lead thing about what Frankenstein thinks of himself.
And you had to get this thing because they were going for the ooh factor in this one, the ick factor.
Well, plus it's an interesting concept to think about that he was, in his state, he was actually able somehow to publish this stuff. I mean, that would have been an interesting story in itself.
Yeah.
I arrest you, sir, for sorcery.
No.
That introduces, I don't look at him obviously as a protagonist, but he's the plot device. He's the guy that gets us in, and we're standing in his shoes.
I agree with you, but I also said it's significant because of the fact that in the beginning, where are we? He's worshiping Frankenstein.
Shane Bryant. Should mention his name. He didn't really do a lot after this. Well, he stayed a working actor.
He wasn't Captain Kronos, wasn't he? As one of the vampire
Right.
children.
Yeah, he was like the older son.
He was that. He did a lot of TV, so he did die a working actor, and apparently he did a really interesting trailer. If anybody can get a hold of it.
My name is Simon Helder, and I'm Burgomaster of Darmstadt. The strangest events took place last week in our cemetery. Our gravedigger, Fritz, was brutally murdered by a giant creature who ripped off his head and stole his left leg. Of course, the whole case has nothing to do with my good friend Baron Frankenstein. Nothing.
And I really wish they had made that film because the trailer looked very, very interesting.
So it introduces the plot, and it's another one of those interesting themes where not only brains are a theme, like they are in all of the Frankensteins for Hammer, but in this one in particular, eyes become recurring.
Well, but they do that a lot in the earlier Frankensteins too, because if you can get the ick factor going, eyeballs get the ick factor going really quickly.
Well, I understand the ick factor, but it's there's a lot of ways they could have done the ick factor.
The eyes have it, man.
And, okay, good pun. He gets convicted. He goes to the same prison that Frankenstein was sent to. Asylum. But this is where we see the man himself.
I like where they introduced him.
Oh, you go. Love to come on.
So glad you liked it. I always rather fancy myself in yours.
You did order a bath next sir, didn't you?
This isn't Freudian or anything like that.
No, not at all.
Enjoying that, are you, my lovely Told you would, didn't I?
Right.
Nice and clean. We all like to be nice and clean. So I ride in front of a bar. Oh, that's lovely. But it's a bit rough sometimes, but it can't be helped. It's all in the
And there's Tina's,
The Angel.
Madeline Smith from Vampire Hunters,
Right.
and Taste the Blood of Dracula. And also Live and Let Die. She was in a Bond film.
And
Of
there.
course, that wig is hilarious.
Yeah, he said it. He.
Well, I wouldn't have recommended it, but
himself.
he at least is able to make you forget about it.
That's true.
And this is horrific. This is horrific too. If you heard the crying.
You can go now. All right. It's all right. Two of your sons.
And that's sort of foreshadowing.
Now
You find out
cheating on your
that
rival.
he's worse even than that.
Yeah.
Right. So as bad as Frankenstein is, he's not as bad as the guys who
As director of this asylum,
decided
you
to
are
put
responsible
control.
for the conduct of your staff. Is that not so?
Well, yes.
Well, it's like his weakness is absolutely detestable.
We just gave him a bath, Herr Director.
With the fire hose. You find a week's pay and lose your privileges.
But it was Hans that did it.
Then you're both fined. Out!
It was funny when Stanley Spadowski did it.
Yeah. Frankenstein, Peter Cushing said that wig didn't look like Helen Hayes.
Neither had they, apparently.
Quite. I came back early because I was unable to collect the medical supplies I'd ordered in Carlsbad. They refused to let me take them.
And I
because the last consignment
also
was
kept
not
this
yet
scene
paid.
in just to show you how iron-fisted he is in this situation.
Tomorrow.
He is a master of extortion. Good point.
Before noon. Will that satisfy you?
And of course, because he's corrupt
There
and
they
weak,
are, looking very
he's easy to
tired.
push around.
Right. And the thing is, he's also in his own way trapped in
Would you
this
like me to
asylum
advertise the
too.
one for you?
No. Thank you.
Well, as you will.
Now I'll have that brandy.
Oh, you'll join me. Good.
No, I won't join you.
There's a lot of brandy
I'll take it with me. I
that
have
they
work to do.
drink in these Hammer films.
That is true. And actually, I don't know if you kept the line in there, because there's a line in there about when he's pushing, when the evil director is yelling at his underling for doing that in front of Frankenstein, and he says to Frankenstein, as long as that you're smarter, you're always in power. And then Frankenstein turns around and starts using the same trick against him. I wish you had shown that, but I know you can't. That's actually a funny part of the movie.
You can pick up on the dynamics right away.
So that's what's going on. We're so far caught up with most of the people.
Who played the director?
A guy called John Stratton.
Because actually, he had to play a very slimy role, and I thought he did very well.
He kind of does. Like I said, if you look it up, he's got nothing really big. He did a lot of TV and BBC stuff, too.
Well, at least we know he's there, and we've seen his performance, so...
Turns such a movie playing opposite Peter Cushing, that's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know if he did another... Oh, no, he did do it. He did do Quatermass in the Pit. That I think about. He was in that one, too.
Okay.
Not
Another classic.
Absolutely.
The next one is only 10 seconds long.
She's known as the Angel.
Very apt.
Well, I threw that in there because that becomes another interesting theme in here about angels. Because she's the angel.
It goes back to the God thing.
She becomes an interesting focal point in this whole thing. Now, this next sequence that I have, it does two things that I thought was really good. One, it told a lot of the backstory without dumps, and it also advanced the story at the same time, setting up the theater. And I thought this was a great sequence. Again, this is cut down, but this is when Frankenstein starts showing Dr. Hilder the patients.
Herr Muller.
I agree, this is very
He
significant.
thinks himself to be God. He's not the first man to hold that opinion.
So he thinks it's funny somebody else thinks they're God.
Yeah.
I created man.
That corridor houses my own special patients. Herr Schneider, the red disc indicates that the patient is dangerous. Escaped? He tried to. He fell 30 feet out of the stone.
And of course, you have to, just the fact that they're displaying what kind of
Why was he
strength this
here?
guy actually had.
Homicidal tendencies. He was fascinated by broken glass. He liked stabbing people in the face with it.
That was quite a detail there, stabbing in the face with broken glass.
Yeah, and I like the way that it was brought up. I mean, like, it was necessary.
Professor Duttendale.
But just as a matter of fact.
And this is, to me, this is very, very telling and should be studied on many levels.
Being tone deaf, I'm unable to appreciate
about his approach to the professor here. Because it seems like he absolutely despises him secretly.
You like my playing? Very much.
But I think
I'm
he
afraid I don't
despises
recognize
him
the
because he
melody.
can't
Of course
reach
you
his
don't.
level.
I call it the angel. After this one here.
Yeah, but you
You
know,
play
deciding that
beautifully,
he
Professor.
needed to use his brain, I think, was the highest form of
Pity
tribute.
you don't understand all this. Pure poetry,
Well,
I assure you.
you could look at it that way. I mean, it could have been very pragmatic, but the fact that I think he was walking in.
The one thing that occurred to me is this, though.
I thought he was
actually
jealous.
underestimates him because he thinks he can
See
go
those
ahead
hands?
and use him in his experiment and then
Thought it
control
possible
him.
for hands like that?
So he seriously underestimated him.
Frankly, I wouldn't.
Yeah, but it's like getting it back to the professor, the fact that he's walking into this room that has all of this advanced mathematics written all over the wall. And to me, it almost seems like to him, he was looking at a heaven he could not achieve.
Yeah, maybe so. But like I said,
Yeah. Oop.
But the wild thing is, too, with him,
Now,
Now,
I gotta
all
say,
he
too,
needs is another brain.
he sees the hands. He's horrified by the hands. But he shouldn't be, because he chose to go down this road before he even met Frankenstein.
Well, it was almost like a moment of self-awareness, where it's like, oh, it's, you know...
If you're going to go down this road, you got to go down this road. There's no
Because he
looking
has
back.
a conversation with him after that.
Yeah.
Concerning the hands.
Yes, he does.
actually, in a way, it's the way that he forces himself deeper into Frankenstein's experiments by bringing it to the knowledge and telling them he saw it and he knew what was going on.
And then you've got that moment where he realizes, spoiler, that...
But we should have set that last scene up, that the one guy who was one of the three patients, he was showing him in the dangerous ward was a guy who was an artist and a musician, therefore he had great hands. Well, not musician, with that.
Well, he didn't... He said, yeah, I mean, like, for the red tags, yeah, they're dangerous. But then he said, these are my special patients, and he didn't really explain they're special because they're dangerous. He's like, they're special because I'm interested in them.
Absolutely. The artist had the hands he
and they
wanted.
They all had some kind of great talent.
Yeah, or some great, if you want to call it a gift. I mean, like, it's hard to think about the brute, but still, he had strength. Yeah.
He had the body. He had the body. The
right.
artist had
the
the
will to
soul.
live.
The art had the soul, and the scientist had the brain. You had all three together. Mind, body, and spirit.
So there's a Wizard of Oz thing going on here.
I'm sure it was intentional, but go ahead. The next scene now?
Well, the next scene here, this is after, well, this is where Frankenstein reveals the plan. I mean, it's not unexpected, but how he's going about it probably caught this guy just a wee bit off guard. But this is where he finds the secret laboratory and what's going on. And I think part of this is trying to understand, you know, the guy who's behind the book.
Yeah, but it was his Bible that Frankenstein read.
Exactly. The guy he was worshiping.
Right. Yeah, well, he was worshiping Frankenstein of the book versus...
What do you think you are doing?
The real world.
Yeah.
I knew you must have a workshop somewhere. I knew you couldn't give up your work completely. And you haven't. Have you?
And again, Peter Cushing to me has this great ability to have these subtle... I want to keep it.
I never shall.
Just this amazing way to have like these subtle changes in expression.
Really changing rapidly in the last 10 seconds of that one.
Right.
I never shall.
Initially was, how can I?
And of course, we get a good side. Yes, you're right. We get a good side of the creature. Of course, David Prowse.
Right.
In a hideous costume, and that was actually the weakest point of the film, probably because everybody.
Who is probably not that hairy in real life. We should add that.
He played Darth Vader.
Right, and everybody does, and you can find pictures of him outside of costume. Shane Bryant said Prowse came up to him and asked him, "What do you think about my costume?" And I said, I don't want to be bad to the guy, so I did say, "Well, they did your feet well," and he said, "Well, that's the only thing that's not in costume." So yeah, even the critics jumped on it because that's the costume didn't do him any justice.
Well, I mean, I understood what they were going for, but that's my only real criticism of the film is the design.
Right. And that is actually one of the biggest criticisms of this film that still sticks to this day was how bad the costume was.
You know, the other thing is this, though. I picked up a Quasimodo kind of energy off him, especially in the final scene.
I could see that.
That's I don't know if they were going for that, but that's what it reminded me of.
Now, the next piece, okay, what has happened in the meantime? The professor, well, let me play it.
Now, all he needs is another brain. Preferably the brain of a genius. Well, you won't find one here. Except, of course, the professor's.
But
he seems perfectly fit. He could live for another 10 years. More. He could, indeed. You wouldn't kill him.
Interesting.
You think I would do that? No. But you're so dedicated. I don't know what to think. I'm not a murderer, Simon.
Not exactly.
All right, Professor.
And they say never meet your heroes.
You can't.
If I would have played the rest of the scene, the employee, he actually seemed to have taken some sort of pleasure out of that.
This is the guy who opened up the fire hose on a young, handsome guy because he didn't like the...
Well, I mean, like, you've got the sadism at play. You've got the fact that these guys are, like, acting like minor demons in a hell.
Little demons.
Yeah,
exactly. They were little demons.
And assholes, because the first time I saw that guy, I said, that guy's an asshole.
Yes. I did.
Come on, Eric.
Yeah, I totally thought that. I saw him on screen, and that there's an asshole.
You could see him working in a fast food restaurant.
He was extra big when Hans broke out the fire hose.
Oh, you could have seen that when they're actually putting the brain in? I like that scene.
Especially when he knocks over the bowl with the old brain in it.
Yeah, it's a glorious scene in the movie, that's for sure.
Well...
And you hear him cutting the skull.
Thing is, if you look at... I'm trying to look at the differences because a lot of the... And also that theme. I'll come back to that theme. Well, it's... Yeah, melancholy... It's a very...
It's a violin, though, just like But it's also a violin theme, which is what the professor was playing when you first met him.
Right.
Yes. And she kind of looks like Esmeralda there, and
And that
he
was
looked like
probably
Quasimodo.
intentional because of the composer that we haven't really looked at composers yet to this point. James Bernard, he did a lot of Hammer. He did 23 Hammer films. He was there from the beginning with the Quatermass. In
Yeah.
fact, when they ended up wanting to do, when they re-released Nosferatu, they asked him to put music to the Silent Nosferatu, and that's what you hear nowadays when you look at the film. But he was already doing stuff before that. Not only that, the weird thing about James Bernard is he actually won an Oscar, not for composing, he was actually won an Oscar for writing in 1952, 7 Days to Noon, when he wrote with his partner at the time, John Denn. So this is a guy who he's a writer in 52, but by 55, he's doing Hammer films.
Referring back to another video we did when we talked about The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, I brought up the music for that, and he did that soundtrack too, and it was like for the same reason, where he composed a theme that I thought was very effective. Just like with here, you talk about, the theme here sounds like, very melancholy. It seems like somebody wanting something more, but no, they can't get it. You know, and I look, in many ways, I look at the professor as much as of an angel as Angel, because he's in there.
Clearly he's a victim.
And then paint up they keep mentioning that he savagely attacked
the director.
The director, and you can't see that, and you're just kind of wondering either that or somehow he was put in there and the director just did what Frankenstein told him to do.
Yeah, but later on we will also find out the reason he attacked him.
It's implied. I mean, like, it was, to me, it was subtle enough that a lot of people, like myself, could miss it. That's the one, his one big trigger is when he sees something bad is happening to Angel.
Because we knew it. Okay, and the next scene?
Okay, and this is like extending the fact that we've got, you know, the professor.
Professor?
And he suddenly...
Look at me.
In a very... a bad way.
Yes, exactly. And not only is he a creature from hell, he's a creature
Who
in
am
hell.
I?
Right.
Who am I?
Dr. Victor.
What is your name? Yes. You committed suicide, Professor Darnell. I saved your brain, and I've given you a new body. You've done it. You've made it work. You've done it. We did it. The three of us. No, you did. Baron Frankenstein. No one else.
You've done it.
No one has ever done this before. No one in this world. Now perhaps they'll accept and understand what I'm trying to achieve. Of course they will.
Well, he's sitting there praising him, but we get any chance to look. What he's done is horrific.
Well, it becomes doubly horrific when... Well, wait till we get through this, because He never considered the fact that he...
To Baron Frankenstein, creator of man.
For his own
what else?
Glory.
That man in there didn't exist till you created him.
And of course...
one man's body, another man's mind.
Dr. Helder doesn't...
I am great.
Yeah, and it's like what Beth was pointing out. I assume that was from My Fair Lady, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's what I was thinking. It was like this guy, the monster, is on the verge of emotional collapse, rightfully.
And they're patting each other on the back, ignoring him. Tonight, oh man, you did it. You did it. You did it. As sturdy as Gibraltar, not a second did you falter. There's no... And she's the one who actually did it. She's actually the creation, and they're, like, ignoring her while they're patting each other on the back.
And this might be a weird tangent. Remember Robin Williams in The Adventures of Baron Munchausen? Well, the King of the Moon, the fact that he's like two completely separate entities.
Right.
Like his head is very ethereal and,
And the body is very sensuous, yes.
and the head doesn't want to be with the body, because of the way that the body controls him, which becomes an interesting theme in here.
Yeah, I see your
Are
point.
you saying the professor didn't have any testicles before?
No, I don't think he was actually thinking a lot about his testicles.
But the funny thing is, broad association is a sign of genius, but I think it's also part of schizophrenia.
The professor was in search of beauty, whereas
That's true. Very good point. And he wound up in a completely horrific spot.
Frankenstein, who isn't pursuing beauty, he is pursuing godhood.
Yes, regardless of what it costs anybody else.
Gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet.
And he didn't kill him.
All the eggs in the asylum are already broken, so what the heck?
He just encouraged him to kill himself. Is that the same thing?
Right.
Yeah, if you could do it with just a note, then hey, that he was already tutoring.
But either way, Frankenstein is capitalizing on death. Now, like in a lot of the other Frankenstein films, that's why I kind of didn't show some of the stuff that you see in most, if not all, of the Frankenstein films, where for some reason the brain and the body just, they don't gel, and the professor, the monster, he's becoming more volatile. You see an interesting moment, which I didn't have in here. Frankenstein is trying to get the professor to start practicing mathematics again. And he's writing on a chalkboard. And the professor is writing, goes... Frankenstein is asking him, why can't he do a simple something or other? And Monster says, hungry. I'm hungry. And Frankenstein goes, when you get this done, you can eat. And then the guy destroys the chalkboard. And that's when Frankenstein is like thinking, I can't with this guy.
Exactly. He underestimated him.
Which is an unusual moment. So, but like I said, that is, again, what you see in a lot of the films where the monster's condition starts deteriorating, resulting in violence and the monster being very unpredictable. But this is, and I found this interesting, this is from after, his escape, because...
All the days the plague shall be in him. He is defiled. He is unclean.
And again,
he shall dwell alone.
Ironic, because as he's talking about the creatures, he's talking about Frankenstein. And I thought this was very interesting. I kind of wish they would have dwelt on it a little bit more.
God in heaven!
He finds his body. He looks for his body.
And obviously, that let's face it, who wouldn't go nuts?
And I also was kind of curious, too, about some sections of the script, because it's like, I would like to have known what was supposed to have happened in the lab. Because they show he's free, Frankenstein walks in, and it looks like him and the creature are going to have a fierce confrontation, but you don't see anything. And Frankenstein comes out with, at least one of his forearms all bloody.
Did you show the jump where Frankenstein...
Yes, when he jumps on his... Matter of fact, they
make
a big point out of pointing out that he was an old dude and he's still...
Well, he was very... he was very physical in this movie, which was surprising.
59 years old, he had already taken his health had taken a plunge after the death of his wife, and yet he demanded to do his own stunts as much as he could.
But it doesn't show, he didn't knock the creature out like in the other things. I mean, the creature ran out of the room. Well, no, in this particular case, we don't know. We're not shown that, and I'm just kind of curious to see what was intended, because that seemed like it should have been it. But so the creature runs amok, digs up his own grave. Actually, he goes in and he kills the director.
No harm there, right?
No big loss, and there's many different ways to look at that.
And of course, that's because he's aware of the fact that the director, who's also the father of Angel, molested her.
So then this is actually the ending, and I thought was a great ending to the story. I mean, we're talking about all 7 chapters. And
Nice under the plane.
yeah, and the thing is, you at this point you still don't know exactly what you can't predict the creature's behavior because he was just standing there and he did kill the guy, but he had a right to kill the guy or a reason to.
He's gonna kill her.
And he becomes a Christ figure because the people destroy
Right.
Go back to your rooms.
God's work.
There's nothing more for you to see. Now you can use your hose. Make this place clean. Ah, Simon, good. Lend me a hand, will you? We've a lot of work ahead of us. I've been thinking about what went wrong. Too much reliance on surgery, too little on biochemistry. Now, Reinhauser is very interesting on that point. Here we are. You can read what he says.
The creature's dead, destroyed.
Well, that's of no importance. Best thing that could have happened to him. He was of no use to us or to himself. But next time.
Wow.
Next time?
Of course. We'll discuss the details later. For the moment, we must get this place tidied up so that we can start afresh. Now, we shall need new material, naturally. Herr Adler in 106, perhaps.
You could admire his...
No? Oh,
plot.
well, no matter. There's plenty of time to decide that.
I'd be horrified at his total lack of conscience.
Plenty of time.
But God has eternity.
The thing, this is a fitting elegy to the franchise. A franchise that was certainly what I'm considering to be the most important thing to happen in Hammer history. Was the first Frankenstein film, obviously. It leaves him in a place where, okay, we're always going to have the crazy Frankenstein guy, and he's always going to be doing horrific stuff. And it was also Terrence Fisher's last movie. So I'm thinking, for so many reasons, it gets a thumbs up, and it needs to be watched by any true horror fan.
It was a great way to end it. He's truly in his own circle of hell.